does it really take for a country to transform its air force from modest beginnings into a credible modern power? Just look at countries like South Korea, which went from flying second-hand fighters in the 1980s to fielding world-class jets like the KF-21 today. Proving that even nations without massive defense budgets can dramatically elevate their air capabilities with the right strategy, partnerships, and long-term vision. That same story is now unfolding in the Philippines. Quietly but steadily, the Philippine Air Force is modernizing, rebuilding its fighter fleet, expanding its capabilities, and preparing for a role that goes far beyond counterinsurgency. And to understand where the PAF truly stands today, we need to examine how its current aircraft, its ongoing modernization, and its future fighter choices are shaping a force that is more capable and more forward-looking than many realize. The story of the Philippine Air Force begins in the post-World War II era, when the newly independent nation inherited and later acquired a fleet of P-51 Mustang fighters. These long-range propeller aircraft became the backbone of the young air arm and played a central role in stabilizing the country, patrolling remote provinces, fighting communist insurgents, and eventually forming the foundation of the elite 5th Fighter Wing. For an emerging air force, the Mustang represented more than firepower. It symbolized sovereignty and the Philippines' early commitment to building a credible air defense. As the jet age swept across Asia, the Philippines transitioned into true modern air power with the arrival of the F-86 Sabre. These swept-wing fighters, among the most advanced aircraft of their time, marked the country's leap into high-performance flight. The Sabres gave the PAF its first genuine interceptor capability, enabling pilots to train for supersonic combat and all-weather missions. The era also saw the rise of the famed Blue Diamonds aerobatic team, showcasing Filipino pilots' skill and boosting national pride. Through the 1960s and early 1970s, the Sabre made the Philippines one of the region's respected early jet operators. The PAF's capabilities advanced even further with the acquisition of the F-5 Freedom Fighter in 1965. These lightweight supersonic jets instantly elevated the Philippines into an elite group. It became one of the first countries in Southeast Asia to operate supersonic aircraft. For the next 4 decades, the F-5s served as the Philippines' primary air defense fighters, flying interception missions, territorial patrols, and even participating during political crises and coup attempts in the 1980s. The F-5s became the backbone of Philippine air power, fast, reliable, and symbolic of an era when the Philippines still held a competitive position in regional military aviation. Alongside the F-5s, the PAF briefly operated one of its most powerful fighters ever, the F-8 Crusader, dubbed the last of the gunfighters. Acquired from the U.S. Navy in 1977, these carrier-capable fighters gave the Philippines a true high-performance interceptor, with radar, missiles, and combat-proven capabilities. For a time, the combination of F-5s and F-8s offered the Philippines a strong, multi-layered air defense posture. However, the Crusaders were difficult to maintain, and by 1988 they were grounded. Then, in 1991, the eruption of Mount Pinatubo dealt the final blow. Ashfall buried and corroded the remaining F-8s at Clark Air Base, wiping out one of the PAF's most capable fleets almost overnight. The early 2000s marked a painful turning point. By 2005, after about 40 years of service, the remaining F-5s were retired due to age, spare part shortages, and increasing safety concerns. Their departure left the Philippines with no operational fighter jets for the first time in its modern Air Force history. What remained were sub-supersonic trainers, such as the S-211 and the OV-10 Bronco turboprops, aircraft effective for counterinsurgency but wholly inadequate for territorial defense or air-to-air missions. Budget constraints, shifting priorities toward internal security operations, and decades of underinvestment had collectively eroded the PAF's high-end capabilities. From 2005 to 2012, the Philippines lived through what analysts term the fighter gap years, a period during which the nation could not even scramble a supersonic aircraft to intercept intruders. This collapse of capability was not the result of any single decision, but rather a long chain of political, economic, and strategic factors. Yet it set the stage for the dramatic modernization that followed. The loss of the F-5s and F-8s, the vulnerabilities exposed during the Scarborough Shoal crisis, and the strategic realization that internal security operations alone could no longer define national defense, All these converged to force the Philippines to rebuild its fighter fleet from the ground up. The 2012 Scarborough Shoal standoff was the moment the Philippines finally saw how vulnerable its air force had become. For weeks, Philippine and Chinese ships faced off near the shoal, but the real problem was happening above the water. The Philippine Air Force had no fighter jets that could respond to Chinese aircraft. Its last supersonic fighters, the F-5s, were retired in 2005, and the older F-8 Crusaders had been lost years earlier after the Mount Pinatubo eruption. What the PAF had left were only S-211 trainers and OV-10 Broncos, aircraft meant for training and counterinsurgency, not air defense. During the crisis, the PAF could not launch a single fast interceptor, and reports noted that unidentified aircraft entered Philippine airspace unchallenged, revealing how exposed the country's skies had become. During this crisis, the Philippines quietly asked the United States for help and explored buying F-16 Fighting Falcons to quickly rebuild its air defense. But the US did not approve a sale at the time. According to analyses from Crisis Group and major news outlets, Washington did not want to escalate tensions with China during President Obama's pivot to Asia. The US also had concerns about whether the Philippines could afford to maintain and sustain a full F-16 fleet. Instead of fighters, the US offered support in maritime surveillance and intelligence, which showed that even Washington believed the Philippines needed to rebuild step by step, not jump straight into high-end jets. Surprisingly, this setback became an opportunity. With US guidance, the Philippines turned to South Korea's FA-50 Golden Eagle, a modern, fast, and more affordable light fighter. The FA-50 offered supersonic speed, precision weapons, and compatibility with Western technology, but at a fraction of the cost of the F-16. It was the most realistic option for a country that had been without fighters for nearly a decade. In 2014, the Philippines signed a deal for 12 FA-50s, marking its return to the jet age. Looking back, Scarborough Shoal was the wake-up call the Philippines needed. It exposed the true cost of years without modernization and showed that diplomacy alone could not protect national territory. It pushed the government to restart the Air Force's rebuilding process and eventually led to the fighter fleet the Philippines relies on today. Without the lesson of 2012, the FA-50s would not be flying Philippine colors, and the PAF's modernization journey would look very different. The Philippines' return to the jet age began with an unlikely partner, South Korea. After the 2012 Scarborough Shoal crisis exposed how big the gap in Manila's air power had become, the search for a practical, reliable, and politically realistic fighter jet quickly focused on South Korea's FA-50 Golden Eagle. This aircraft was modern and supersonic, yet far more affordable than many Western options. Built with extensive F-16 DNA, from its aerodynamic design to avionics, it integrated well with Western systems. Equally important, the Philippines and South Korea already had strong defense ties, making the deal not just about hardware, but a strategic partnership that helped rebuild the Air Force without overstretching the budget. When the first FA-50PH units arrived, the first deliveries came in late 2015, the aircraft symbolized much more than new jets. They marked the country's return to supersonic capability. The FA-50 can reach Mach 1.5 and is equipped with a 20mm internal cannon, precision-guided bombs like the JDAM, air-to-ground missiles such as the AGM-65 Maverick, and is compatible with modern targeting pods and advanced radars. With these capabilities, the PAF gained an aircraft that could train pilots, intercept threats, support ground troops, and strike targets, covering more than just internal security operations. But the FA-50 did attract criticism. Former President Rodrigo Duterte once said the jets were good only for ceremonial flybys, arguing they couldn't match China's hundreds of fighters or the capabilities of a full multi-role jet like the F-16 or Gripen. Critics likewise pointed out that, as a lead-in fighter trainer, the FA-50 was not designed for high-intensity air superiority combat against advanced enemy fighters. Yet this criticism overlooks the FA-50's purpose in the Philippine context. It was never meant to be the final solution, but rather the bridge. It helped the PAF rebuild pilot proficiency, restore readiness, and re-establish quick reaction alert duties, all while the nation prepared to acquire true multi-role fighters. Indeed, the Philippines remains in talks to expand the FA-50 fleet, with a contract signed in June 2025 for another 12 jets. The FA-50PH is not the endgame of Philippine air power, but it is the fighter that made rebuilding possible. It restored a long-lost capability, elevated the skills of an entire generation of pilots and gave the Philippines a credible foundation from which to build its next chapter in air defense modernization. The modernization of the Philippine Air Force, PAF, took another key step in 2020 with the arrival of the A-29 Super Tucano, a light attack aircraft built by Brazil's Embraer and widely recognized as one of the world's most effective counterinsurgency platforms. The Philippines acquired 6 units of the Super Tucano, intended to strengthen internal security missions while freeing up higher-end assets for more demanding tasks. These aircraft are used by many countries, from Afghanistan to Nigeria and Colombia, thanks to their reputation for ruggedness, precision, and reliable performance in difficult environments. In the Philippines setting, that meant an aircraft capable of flying long hours, operating from short or rough runways, and delivering accurate firepower, all at far lower cost than fast jets. The Super Tucano's strength lies in its versatility. It can deliver close air support, conduct counterinsurgency, perform border patrol, engage in light attack roles, and even conduct limited air-to-air interception of slow-moving aircraft, while also being a capable trainer for new pilots. Equipped with advanced avionics, night attack capability, and precision-guided munitions, the A-29 brings a level of accuracy and endurance the PAF previously lacked in its older turboprop fleet. Significantly, the Super Tucano complements the FA-50 fleet. While the FA-50 handles quick reaction alerts, maritime intrusions, and higher-intensity missions, the Super Tucano covers the lower-intensity operations that don't demand a supersonic jet. This division of labor lets the Philippines maximize its resources and maintain readiness across both internal and external security scenarios. While the arrival of the FA-50PH and the A-29 Super Tucano marked big steps forward, the Philippines still needs a true multi-role fighter, one that can defend its skies, support its maritime domain, and respond to region-wide threats. The next major aircraft choice will shape the PAF's fighting ability for decades. 2 jets have risen to the foreground: the US F-16 Block 7072 Viper and Sweden's JAS-39 Gripen EF. The F-16 Block 7072 is broadly regarded as one of the most capable 4.5 generation fighters. According to Lockheed Martin, it offers a structural life of about 12,000 hours and advanced avionics, including AESA radar. In April 2025, the U.S. State Department approved a possible sale to the Philippines of 20 F-16s at an estimated cost of $5.58 billion, including weapons and support. Choosing the F-16 would integrate the Philippines deeply into U.S. and allied systems, training, logistics, and weapons all aligned globally. But the cost and long-term sustainment remain significant concerns for Manila. On the other side, the Gripen EF offers a different model, one aimed more at cost-effective but capable air defense for smaller countries. Reports from comparative exercises show the Gripen outperformed the Chinese Su-27 in BVR, beyond visual range, engagements, such as when Thailand's Gripens achieved an 88% effective hit rate at 30 kilometers against the Su-27's 14% in one exercise. The Gripen is designed for short runway operations, easier logistics, and lower cost per flight hour. Its acquisition cost is estimated around $85 million US each, making it more attainable for a country with limited defense budgets. However, a formal purchase by the Philippines has not yet been finalized. The debate between the two comes down to capability versus affordability. Supporters of the Gripen argue it suits the Philippines' geography and budget. Fewer islands can be covered with the right aircraft, logistic chains are simpler, and it can still pack serious air defense punch. Supporters of the F-16 argue that the deeper support network, global weapons access, and proven combat usage give it a strategic edge, especially given China's growing aerial and maritime power. Even after getting the FA-50PH and A-29 Super Tucano, the Philippines still needs a true multi-role fighter that can defend its airspace, protect its waters, and respond to regional threats. The next big fighter decision will shape the Philippine Air Force, PAF, for the next 20 to 30 years. For years, the main contenders were the US F-16 Block 7072 Viper and Sweden's JAS-39 Gripen. The F-16 Block 7072 is one of the most advanced 4.5 generation fighters, with modern avionics, AESA radar, and access to a wide range of US weapons like the AIM-120 AMRAAM. A possible sale of F-16s to the Philippines, including weapons and support, has been valued in the multi-billion-dollar range, which raised serious questions about whether Manila could afford to buy and sustain the fleet long-term. The Gripen offers a different approach. It is designed for countries that need strong air defense on a tighter budget. The Gripen EF is known for its low operating cost, ability to use short or rough runways, and efficient logistics. In exercises abroad, Gripens have performed very well in beyond visual range (BVR) combat, including against Su-27 30 flanker-type fighters similar to some Chinese aircraft. Its estimated unit price, around $80 to $90 million, is still high, but often lower to own and operate than heavier US jets. Despite this, the Philippines has not yet signed a Gripen contract. Recently, South Korea has entered the picture with a much bigger offer. Manila has already doubled its FA-50 fleet. In 2025, the Philippines signed a $700 million deal for 12 more FA-50s, bringing the total to 24 light combat jets, many in the new Block 20 upgraded configuration. On top of that, South Korea is now offering the KF-21 Boramae, a new 4.5 generation multi-role fighter with partial stealth features, AESA radar, and modern missiles. Philippine officials have confirmed that the KF-21 is being considered as a future MRF option, and recent reports say Manila is in advanced talks with Korea Aerospace Industries, KAI, about a potential deal. Some reports also mention other European fighters like the Eurofighter Typhoon as having been floated or promoted for the Philippine market, but the core serious contenders in most defense analyses remain. Number 16 Block 7072, Saab JAS-39 Gripen EF, F-21 Boramae Plus, an expanded and upgraded FA-50 fleet as a low-tier companion to any future MRF. Because of this, the debate is no longer just F-16 versus Gripen. It is now about what mix of fighters best fits the Philippines. A high-end MRF, F-16, Gripen, or KF-21, backed by a larger number of FA-50s for day-to-day patrols and lighter missions. Supporters of the Gripen say it fits the Philippines' geography and budget. It is cheaper to fly, easier to maintain on scattered islands, and still strong in air defense. Supporters of the F-16 point to its global support network, combat record, and deep integration with US forces, important in the South China Sea context. Fans of the KF-21 argue it could give the Philippines a more modern, future-proof fighter, tied to an already strong defense relationship with South Korea and fast delivery timelines. The Philippine Air Force today is far stronger than many believe, but still far from its full potential. Its future depends on political will, funding, strategic partnerships, and smart equipment choices. The next decade will decide whether the PAF becomes a regional air power or remains a limited defensive force. If you liked the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for deep analysis of contemporary issues.